Die Republikanische Partei hat sich unter Donald Trump radikalisiert und tut das weiterhin.
It's time to take a sledgehammer to the mainstream media's lies and propaganda.
This is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
It's extremely dangerous to our democracy.
I'm running for the Senate because I'm tired of debt junkie, weak-kneed, open-border rhinos.
Join the MAGA crew. Get a rhino hunting permit.
Hunting rhinos, or Republicans in name only, a derogatory term for GOP members seen as not loyal enough to the party.
And as my family can tell you, I won't put up with what the left is trying to do to our country. Stop the illegals, ban CRT, and fight vaccine mandates. I'll make sure we always have the right to protect ourselves and our families.
We have basically a tyrannically controlled government right now. The Democrats.
America does not need any more weakling, cowering, wimpy Republican congressmen and senators.
The United States is at risk of a period of authoritarian rule in a way that I never expected to think we would see in this country.
In seiner Präsidentschaft versuchte Trump, die demokratischen Prozesse zu seinem Nutzen zu untergraben. Auch ohne ihn als Präsidenten schlagen viele Republikaner weiter diesen Weg ein, vor dem Demokratie-Expertinnen warnen.
Look, the United States is not special. It's not as different from Hungary or from Turkey as many of us believe.
Die tiefe Spaltung des Landes hat der demokratische Präsident Joe Biden nicht überwinden können. Eine Mehrheit der republikanischen Wähler hält ihn für illegitim und drängt zurück an die Macht. Sogar Gewalt ist ein mögliches Mittel.
So I think America is on the precipice of being a truly multiracial democracy on the one hand. On the other hand, there is this authoritarian reaction, and it's serious and it's real, and there's a real threat of democracy decaying.
Kann Demokratie mit einer solchen Radikalisierung überleben?
And actually, we won by a lot.
Es beginnt mit einer Lüge, the big lie. Trump und sein politisches Umfeld verbreiten sie seit der verlorenen Wahl. Er habe nicht verloren, die Demokraten hätten betrogen.
They rigged the election and now, based on the rigged election, they're destroying our country.
Unterstützt wird dieses Narrativ von einer breiten Allianz von Großspendern, Interessengruppen bis hin zu Anhängern der Verschwörungstheorie QAnon. Eine Taktik der Republikaner, das Vertrauen in die vergangene, aber auch in künftige Wahlen zu untergraben? Sie stellen Nachzählungen der 2020er Wahl an. Selbst in Staaten, in denen es schon offizielle Nachzählungen gab.
These fraudulent audits are best understood as a form of political theater, rather than attempt to discern the truth or to uncover any actual problems.
In Arizona organisieren die sogenannten Cyber-Ninjas eine Nachzählung, getragen von republikanischen Politikern, durchgeführt von Amateuren, Verschwörungsgläubigen. Mit UV-Licht suchen sie Wahlzettel nach Bambusfasern ab, weil China laut Theorien die Wahl angeblich beeinflussen wollte. Dieses Modell der forensischen Nachzählung übertragen Republikaner anschließend auf andere Bundesstaaten.
But its aim is actually to mobilize Republican voters to continue to believe in the big lie.
The purpose of fake audits is, again, to reduce faith in the electoral process itself. If people don't believe in the process, if they believe it's rigged, if they believe that it's fake, then they're not going to mind so much when the election is stolen next time. So the idea is to prepare people for a stolen election.
Umfragen zufolge glaubt mittlerweile eine große Mehrheit der republikanischen Anhänger, dass Biden kein rechtmäßig gewählter Präsident sei. Fast 2/3 von ihnen sind der Meinung, dass sie die Wahl kippen dürften. Auch rechte Medien wie Fox News übertragen diese Narrative in der Hauptsendezeit zu Millionen Zuschauern, Abend für Abend.
But a few of its hosts, and in particular Tucker Carlson, have pushed very hard versions of the big lie. Carlson has produced a documentary that implies that January the 6th was somehow the work of the FBI or maybe the CIA.
January 6th is being used as a pretext to strip millions of Americans, disfavored Americans, of their core constitutional rights and to defame them as domestic terrorists. But what exactly happened on January 6th? How much of what we were told about that day is a lie?
And it's designed to create the idea, well, this happened, but it's not our fault. It's nothing to do with real conservatives.
Der Sturm auf das Kapitol hat gezeigt, dass die Lüge vom Wahlbetrug politische Gewalt hervorrufen kann. Seit dem 6. Januar 2021 ist der Ton noch rauer geworden.
When do we get to use the guns? And how many elections are they going to steal before we kill these people?
So, I've spoken to a former Republican congressman who say that they're genuinely frightened not only for their electoral lives, but for their physical lives. If they come out criticizing Trump and the kind of Trump effort to overturn the election, they receive death threats.
Wahlverantwortliche und Wahlhelfer wurden im ganzen Land mit Morddrohungen überzogen.
I really believe what we used to do to traitors is what we should do today. Give them a fucking Alabama necktie, you piece of shit.
1 in 6 election workers surveyed received threats of violence.
Ein großer Teil der Republikaner duckt sich weg. Nur wenige sprechen sich offen gegen Trump aus. Viele dagegen befeuern den Mythos.
And in my judgment, if only lawful votes cast by eligible American citizens were counted, then Donald Trump won the Electoral College.
At a moment when people no longer have faith in the political system, when they believe that their political opponents aren't just rivals, but they're dangerous enemies, traitors, then they are much more likely to resort to violence. And the fact that several Republicans are now using violent language and imagery is a sign that we are already at a certain kind of breakdown.
Radikalere Republikaner werden zunehmend in den Kongress gewählt. Selbst jene, die sich am Aufstand vom 6. Januar beteiligten, haben parteiinterne Vorwahlen für sich entschieden. Einige Republikaner sollen laut Untersuchungsausschuss in die Planung, die 2020er-Wahl Biden abzuerkennen, involviert gewesen sein. Eine Mehrheit der Republikaner im Repräsentantenhaus hat noch in der Nacht vom 6. Januar gegen eine Zertifizierung von Bidens Stimmen gestimmt. Abgeordnete, die sich kritisch gegenüber Trump geäußert haben, werden gerügt und entmachtet. Zum Beispiel die ultrakonservative Liz Cheney, die für Trumps Impeachment gestimmt hatte. Die Untersuchung des Sturms auf das Kapitol wird von den Republikanern weitgehend blockiert. Der Aufstand selbst verharmlost.
You know, if you didn't know the TV footage was a video from January the 6th, you would actually think it was a normal tourist visit.
I wrote a book on the conservative parties in the Weimar era, and one of the things that I studied was the way in which the center-right and the conservative movement within Germany in the Weimar period got pushed further and further to the right through this kind of spiral of radicalization where moderates were kicked out of the party or left the party. So I think one sees something very similar happening within the Republican Party itself today, which is that moderates, those who would be voices of reason and reasonableness, even if ideologically conservative, essentially pushed to the sideline. And what's left is a rump of a party that's increasingly radical. And given our electoral system, that radicalized party can nonetheless win elections, even though that's not where the voters actually are.
Donald Trump hat seine Partei weit nach rechts getrieben. Ob er sich am Ende gegen seine parteiinternen Widersacher durchsetzen kann, ist offen. Aber der Rechtsruck war auch bei ihnen zu beobachten.
The Republicans have persuaded a part of their electorate that the Democrats represent a new cultural force, but they see it as a force that will displace them and will remove them from American public life.
I think what's particularly concerning is that these politicians are acting highly rationally. In a very homogeneous Republican district, a member of Congress faces no challenge from the left. The only challenge, the potential challenge to power that they face, is to their right. And so they have to push further and further to the right. And there's this kind of escalating game where if you don't push far to the right, somebody else will.
There is a certain amount of cynicism here. Many of them are also doing that because they think it will put them in power and in some cases make them a lot of money.
Laut Erkenntnissen des Untersuchungsausschusses nahm Trump $250 Millionen an Spenden mit der Wahlbetrugslüge für einen Fund ein, der nicht existiert.
The Trump campaign knew these claims of voter fraud were false, yet they continued to barrage small-dollar donors with emails, encouraging them to donate to something called the Official Election Defense Fund. The Select Committee discovered no such fund existed.
But there's also a part of the movement and a part of the leadership that it's important to take seriously because they seem to genuinely believe that they're rescuing their countries from some kind of left-wing Armageddon.
So kann die Lüge einer verlorenen Wahl in einem Land mit tiefer Spaltung das ganze politische System an den Rand des Zusammenbruchs führen.
if Republicans try to steal an election, where Democrats will respond in the same way. I mean, that's the risk. And both sides behave in ways that appear to the other side as anti-democratic. And although both sides think they're trying to save democracy, that is how democracies die.
People in the United States tend to believe that their democracy is exceptional and that it's exceptionally resilient. I think the 2020 election shows that that's a misplaced confidence that the American people have, that it could never happen in the United States. I think it can.
Donald Trump hat eine Lüge gesät, die ihre Wirkung entfaltet, selbst wenn er nicht noch einmal Kandidat werden sollte.
If the Republican Party doesn't find within itself the strength to recommit itself to democracy, if the language and the imagery of violence become real violence or more frequent violence, then you could have in the United States a breakdown of a kind that we haven't imagined before, or at least we haven't imagined since the Civil War in the 19th century.
Es ist ein Kurs der Partei, der möglicherweise zu einem Ende der Demokratie, wie wir sie kennen, führen kann.